"Don't touch that car again," Daniel Whitmore said, his voice sharp enough to cut through the marble lobby as he flicked the key fob toward Marcus like it was nothing more than loose change, the metal clinking against Marcus's chest before dropping to the polished floor, a few guests glancing over, but quickly looking away, the quiet kind of silence that comes when power speaks and no one dares interrupt. Marcus bent down slowly, picking up the key with steady fingers, his expression unreadable. Under the soft gold light reflecting off the glass doors, outside a $180,000 luxury sedan idled at the curb, its engine humming low, almost uneasy, like it knew something was wrong before anyone else did. Marcus's eyes lingered on the dashboard through the windshield for just a second longer than normal, a flicker of recognition passing through him, the kind that doesn't come from guessing, but from knowing. While behind him Daniel was already walking away, confident, dismissive, certain he had just put the right man in his place, not realizing he had just made a very expensive mistake. Marcus Reed had learned a long time ago how to move without being seen, how to stand close enough to serve but far enough to be forgotten, his uniform pressed, his posture straight, his voice calm and measured in a place where men like Daniel Whitmore never asked names and never expected answers. To them, he was just another valet, another pair of hands in a black jacket, someone who opened doors and disappeared before the engine even cooled. But Marcus was not new to rooms like this. He understood the rhythm of wealth, the quiet arrogance in a $500 suit, the way conversations shifted when power entered the space. He had once sat at tables where numbers like $50 million were discussed like small change, once stayed up nights tracing engine systems line by line until they were flawless, until they could not fail. But that life had ended quietly, without headlines, without apology, replaced by long hours on his feet and the constant weight of being underestimated, a familiar pressure that never quite left, as if the world had already decided what he was worth before he ever had the chance to speak. And still he said nothing, not when the keys were tossed at him, not when the tone carried more than just impatience, because Marcus knew something Daniel did not, something sitting just beneath the surface, waiting, like a fault line ready to shift at exactly the wrong moment. Daniel Whitmore did not slow down as he crossed the lobby, but his voice carried back like it owned the air. "Make sure you do not scratch it this time," he said without turning, just loud enough for the small circle of executives and guests behind him to hear, a few of them chuckling under their breath, one man shaking his head with a smirk as if the comment was expected, as if it belonged there. Marcus stood beside the car, one hand resting lightly near the door handle, his posture unchanged. But the words hung in the space longer than they should have, stretching into something heavier. Daniel stopped just short of the entrance and glanced back, his eyes briefly scanning Marcus from head to toe, not curious, not thoughtful, just measuring, dismissing. "Actually," he added, adjusting his cufflinks, "just park it where I can see it. I do not want it lost in the back with the rest." A woman nearby let out a quiet laugh, quickly covering her mouth, while another guest looked down at his phone, avoiding the moment entirely, the kind of silence that agreed without speaking. Marcus gave a small nod, controlled, precise, but his eyes flickered once more toward the dashboard through the glass, that same subtle warning pulsing beneath the surface, unnoticed by everyone except the one man being treated like he did not matter. Marcus opened the driver's side door slowly, the leather interior breathing out a faint warmth as the engine continued its low, uneven hum. Subtle but there, a rhythm just slightly off if you knew what to listen for. His fingers hovered near the ignition, not touching, just observing, his eyes scanning the digital display where a small warning icon flickered and disappeared again like it was trying not to be noticed. Behind him the glass doors slid open with a soft mechanical whisper as Daniel's voice carried back once more, louder this time, edged with impatience. "Is there a problem, or do you need help doing your job?" A few more heads turned now, conversations pausing mid-sentence, the tension sharpening as attention settled on the scene. Marcus stepped back from the car, closing the door gently, his movements deliberate, controlled. He walked a few steps toward the entrance but stopped at the edge of the light, not crossing fully into the space Daniel occupied. "Sir," he said evenly, his voice calm but clear enough to reach the circle of onlookers. "There may be an issue with the engine system. It would be safer to have it checked before driving." The words landed clean, but the reaction was immediate. A short laugh from one of the executives, another man exhaling sharply like he had just heard something ridiculous. Daniel turned fully now, his expression tightening, not with concern but with offense, the kind that comes from being questioned by someone he did not consider equal. "You are a valet," he said flatly, each word measured, dismissive. "Not an engineer." A pause followed, heavy, deliberate, as if giving Marcus a chance to correct himself, to step back into the role assigned to him. But Marcus did not move, and that stillness, more than anything, pushed the moment further than it needed to go. Daniel took a step closer, the polished floor catching the reflection of his shoes as his hand reached for the car door again. His jaw set, ready to end the conversation on his terms, but Marcus did not move out of the way this time. Not immediately, his eyes steady, not defiant, just certain. And for a brief second the air shifted, subtle but real. "Are you sure you want to do that?" Marcus said quietly, not raising his voice, not challenging, just placing the words between them like something that could not be taken back. A few people in the crowd exchanged glances. One man let out a low breath, uncertain. Daniel's hand paused on the handle, just for a fraction of a second, and that was the moment. The smallest hesitation, the kind that does not belong to someone like him. His eyes flicked toward the dashboard through the glass, then back to Marcus, and something unspoken passed between them before pride settled back in place, and his grip tightened. Daniel's grip tightened around the handle, and then he pulled it open with a quiet force, sliding into the driver's seat like the moment had already been decided, like hesitation was something that only belonged to other people. The engine responded with a low, uneven vibration, barely noticeable to anyone standing a few feet away, but Marcus heard it clearly, felt it in the rhythm of the idle, the same way he used to hear flaws in prototypes before they ever reached production. Daniel pressed the start button again out of habit, and the dashboard flickered, a brief pulse of warning lights blinking and disappearing as if the system itself could not decide whether to speak up or stay silent. One of the executives leaned closer, squinting through the glass. "It sounds fine," he muttered, more to reassure himself than anyone else. But Marcus shook his head slightly, almost to himself. "It will not stay that way," he said under his breath, just loud enough to exist in the space without demanding attention. Daniel glanced down at the panel now, his eyes narrowing for a fraction of a second, as if something did not match what he expected, the smallest crack in certainty. But then it was gone, replaced by impatience. He shifted the gear, the car rolling forward a few feet, smooth at first, controlled, and then there it was again, a subtle stutter, like a skipped heartbeat, the kind of thing most people would ignore, but not someone who understood what it meant. Marcus's gaze followed the movement, calm, steady, not surprised, just waiting, because he had seen this pattern before, years ago, in a design that was never supposed to fail, in a system built to be flawless, a system that carried his fingerprints even if no one here would recognize them. And as the car crept toward the curb, the tension stretched tighter, not louder, not obvious, just inevitable, like something already set in motion that no one inside the vehicle fully understood yet, especially the man behind the wheel who still believed control was something he could hold on to. The car rolled another 3 feet before the engine gave a sharp, uneven shudder and went quiet. Not loud, not dramatic, just final, like a decision had been made somewhere deep inside the system. The dashboard lit up this time, without hesitation, warning icons holding steady instead of flickering away. A low murmur spread through the small crowd as Daniel sat frozen behind the wheel, his hand still resting near the controls as if pressing something might reverse what had already happened. But it did not. The silence outside felt heavier now, no laughter, no movement, just eyes watching. Daniel stepped out slowly, his expression no longer controlled, his gaze dropping to the panel again before lifting toward Marcus, who had not moved from where he stood, calm, composed, as if this outcome had never been in question. Marcus took a few steps forward, not rushed, not hesitant, and reached into his jacket pocket. Pulling out a worn leather card holder, he opened it with one hand and held it out just enough for Daniel to see. The name printed clean and precise under the hotel lights. Marcus Reed, lead systems engineer, Orion Drive Technologies, the same company Daniel had acquired 2 years ago, the same system now sitting silent in front of him. Marcus closed the holder gently, his voice even. I designed the fail-safe protocol for that engine, he said, meeting Daniel's eyes without anger, without pride, just truth. And it only shuts down like this when something critical is ignored. The words settled into the silence, and this time no one looked away. Daniel stood there longer than anyone expected, the weight of the moment settling into the polished marble beneath his feet, his reflection staring back at him from the car door, no longer sharp, no longer certain. The executives behind him had gone quiet, their earlier laughter replaced by something colder, more cautious, the kind that comes when power shifts without warning. Marcus stepped past him without waiting, opening the hood with practiced ease, his hands steady as he made a small adjustment. The engine came back to life with a smooth, controlled hum, flawless now, exactly as it was designed to be. He closed the hood gently and handed the key back, not tossing it, not lowering himself, just placing it in Daniel's open hand. And for the first time, Daniel did not speak. Marcus turned and walked back toward the valet stand, his pace unhurried, his posture unchanged, leaving behind a silence that said more than any apology ever could, because respect, once lost, does not come back with words.